How's it going, everybody? It's your boy Gage, and today I wanted to do something a little different. I wanted to do a deck profile, and it's always one of those things that I've wanted to do and I've had in the back of my head, but never really had the time and the motivation to do it. But today I'm going to be showing off the Dark Magicians, and it is going to be updated to the current format so that people can see just how crazy the Dark Magician is nowadays. So let's hop right into the deck profile. So of course, you want to start off with the OG Dark Magician. He is the heart and soul of the deck. It wouldn't be able to function without it. It is Yugi's ace monster. Almost everyone who knows Yu-Gi-Oh! Knows this guy. He is that iconic, and he is really what sets this deck apart from a lot of others. There are not a lot of strategies in the game right now that are able to do what the Dark Magician does, and considering he's just a normal monster, you wouldn't think that he would have strong plays, but even against the current meta, some of the strategies that revolve around him are pretty devastating. So yeah, you're gonna need, if you're running a Dark Magician deck, you need to be maxing out on 3 copies per deck. So yeah, gotta have him. And then I'm running 1 Magician of Dark Illusion. So he is essentially another Dark Magician in the deck. But the reason you want to run him is because when you activate a spell or trap during your opponent's turn, you can essentially just special summon him for free from your hand, which is very powerful because he also triggers with the spell card Dark Magical Circle, which will come up later in the deck profile. So run 1 of him, and then of course I'm running Bay 3 Apprentice Illusion Magician. So trying to get her straight there. There we go. She is really what sets this deck apart. A big problem with Dark Magicians is that you don't always have access to the Dark Magician because, you know, it's a 40 card deck, so, you know, statistically you're not always going to draw into those 3 Dark Magicians. She really helps to fix that because she has the ability to actually discard another card in your hand to special summon herself, and when she's special summoned, you can grab a Dark Magician and add it directly to your hand. Extremely, extremely powerful. It ups the consistency of the Dark Magicians to a level that really we haven't seen in the past. She is absolutely crucial. And then on top of that, she has a secondary effect where she could essentially discard herself from the field or the hand to make another Spellcaster type monster you control gain 2,000 attack. So essentially you can make your Dark Magicians up to 4,500 attack, which will beat over anything, like pretty much anything. Even some of the strongest boss monsters in the game right now still only have about like 3,000, 3,500 attack. So having 4,500 at your disposal is great for being able to beat over really big boss monsters, which was a problem with Dark Magicians in the past. So you gotta run her. She's amazing. And I am running 3 Magician's Rod. He is essentially the searcher of the deck. So when he's normal summoned, you can just add a spell or trap card from the deck to your hand, but it has to specifically list the word Dark Magician. So you can grab your Dark Magical Circle, your Magician's Navigation, your Eternal Soul, all other cards that I will be talking about later in the video, but all of these spell and trap cards are essential to getting your Dark Magician onto the field and having your Dark Magician do devastating effects. So if you don't draw into any of those spell and traps, he really helps to unclog your hand and to give you access to cards that you wouldn't have had access to before. So he is a must. I am running 1 Effect Veiler, so this isn't really a part of the Dark Magician strategy. However, during your opponent's turn, you can, if a monster that they control activates an effect, you can just discard this card from your hand and negate it as if it never happened, which is extremely powerful. You're not always going to win the die roll. The Dark Magicians always want to go first, but, you know, if you end up losing the die roll and you have to go second, having a card like this at your disposal to be able to at least do damage to your opponent, because no matter what, your opponent, when it's their turn, they are going to most likely have a monster that they're going to want to activate their effect from. So having Effect Veiler to just say, nope, whatever you're trying to do, I'm just going to shut that shit down, is just too powerful. So, and he's a spellcaster, so he actually does have synergy with some of the other cards in the deck that require spellcasters. So he is definitely a crucial part to the strategy that really helps if you're going second. I'm also running one Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. Again, another going second card that can be really devastating. This card, whenever your opponent basically activates an effect with one of the 3 listed in the bullet points, you could just essentially say nope and make it so that that never happened. So if they add a card from the deck to the hand, special summon from the deck, send a card from the deck to the graveyard, which a lot of decks do nowadays, this card is very versatile. The reason that I'm only running one of her is because she is a zombie type. So even though she is good for being able to stop your opponent's plays turn 2, she isn't really useful going first. So she is powerful, but that's why I'm only running one of her. And then I'm running one Spellbook Magician of Prophecy. He is essentially a part of an engine in the deck that helps you to draw cards. So he can search some of the other cards in the Spellbook engine, such as Spellbook of Knowledge and Spellbook of Secrets. These cards are all part of one engine that essentially allows you to draw 2 cards. So it helps to dig deeper into your deck to be able to draw into the cards that you want to draw into. Again, a problem that Dark Magicians can have is that they don't have a lot of consistency. So having Spellbook of Knowledge and Spellbook of Secrets really helps you to draw into those spells and traps that I told you I needed, that you needed from before, or even just drawing into the Dark Magician himself. They just have such a wide variety of uses, and you need to be able to tribute spellcasters in order to activate Spellbook of Knowledge's effect to draw 2 cards. So that's where Effect Veiler comes in a last-minute scenario. If you need a spellcaster to tribute to activate this effect to draw 2 cards, you could just normal summon the Effect Veiler and tribute that, and then bam, you could draw 2 cards. Very good card. Definitely would highly recommend running the Spellbook engine in any, not just the Dark Magicians, but any Spellbook, kind of any spellcaster variant deck running around out there. I'm also running 3 Pot of Duality. This card is amazing. You can essentially reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, and then take one of them, and then shuffle the rest back in. So again, like I mentioned, sometimes you just really need that draw power. So activating Pot of Duality, you can just grab whatever you want, which is extremely, extremely powerful. It's at the cost of special summoning that turn, but the thing about the Dark Magicians is that you can special summon during your opponent's turn. So this essentially becomes the effect of not being able to special summon is essentially null and void, because you're going to get what you want, and then, as soon as you end your turn, you could just start to pop off. So Pot of Duality, it's free. It's too good. And then one of the heart and souls of the Dark Magician strategy, 3 Dark Magical Circles. This card is incredible. This card allows you, first off, it has kind of a pseudo Pot of Duality effect where you can look at the top 3 cards of your deck, but you can only choose one Dark Magician or a spell and trap that specifically lists the Dark Magician, as opposed to Pot of Duality, which can just grab anything. This is good, again, for clogging hands, but what really makes this card crazy is its ability where if a Dark Magician is special summoned, you can banish 1 card on your opponent's side of the field. That is insane. There are a lot of cards that, once they're banished, your opponent is not going to be able to have access to that card again. So, and a lot of cards nowadays don't protect against banishing effects. So the Dark Magical Circle is pretty insane if you're able to get it. If you're able to get it going, you have a Dark Magician and you have a way to get him on the field. Dark Magical Circle. Oh, and it's a continuous spell, so it essentially stays on the field, and you can activate it once per turn, including your opponent's turn. So you can basically target, special summon on your turn, target a card your opponent controls, banish it, end your turn, they draw, special summon another Dark Magician, banish another card on their side of the field. And you could keep doing it each turn. This is really what makes the Dark Magicians crazy, and is one of the most crucial cards to run in any Dark Magician strategy. I'm also running 2 Illusion Magic. You could tribute a Spellcaster and add 2 copies of Dark Magician from your deck or graveyard to your hand. Incredible. A lot of the cards that help to bring out the Dark Magician onto the field are ones where they can bring it from your graveyard and from your hand. So if you don't have Dark Magician, you can literally just tribute anything and just have access to 2 in your hand at all times. Like, that's too powerful. And this is searchable off of the Magician's Rod monster that I mentioned earlier. So if you have the Magician's Rod and you need Dark Magician, you could just normal summon it, grab this card, tribute your Magician's Rod, and then get access to 2 Dark Magicians. It's just too good. And then one of the most powerful floodgates in the game, the Secret Village of the Spellcasters. This card is insane. Essentially, if you control a Spellcaster, your opponent can't use spells. So spells are crucial cards to a lot of strategies in the game, especially some of the meta decks right now, including Sky Strikers, cards that really utilize a lot of spell cards in their deck. This card shuts them down. They essentially can't play if you control a Spellcaster. Obviously, they can play around it by destroying your Spellcasters, but if their strategy revolves around using spells to get those monsters onto the field, then you're doing a lot of damage to them. So unless they're running other types of spell and trap removal to get this off the field, because it's a field spell, so it's just going to remain on the field for basically forever. So if they're not able to get rid of this card, oh man, that's game over for certain. I've won games just getting the Dark Magician on the field, using Secret Village of the Spellcasters, and essentially just locking them out of their spell cards. It's insane. I'm running 1 Raigeki. It will never not be good. It says destroy all monsters your opponent controls. It is absolutely insane. There are so many times where my opponent sets up a board. They've got like 3 or 4 monsters on the field. They think that, everything's good and well, and then you just end their day. Like, some strategies are completely, as soon as you activate this, they just scoop. Like, they'll just, all right, let's go to game 2. That's how powerful Raigeki still is. There are cards nowadays that prevent destruction. So unfortunately, Raigeki isn't as good as it used to be, but oh man, it is still it's still a heartbreaker, man. 1 OG, the one and only Monster Reborn. It will never not be good. Like, let's be real. Being able to grab a monster from your graveyard if you need Dark Magician in a pinch, or just from your opponent's graveyard, if you're able to get rid of one of their boss monsters, you could just bring it back and add it to your side of the field. Like, that honestly ends games. Monster Reborn, if you're able to draw into it, because right now it's only at 1, so of course I'm running the 1 copy, but oh man, if you draw into it, you're Gucci. I'm running 1 Dark Magic attack. It essentially, as long as you control a Dark Magician, you could destroy all spells and traps your opponent controls. It is insane. And it's searchable off of another card in the deck as well. So you pretty much always have access to this card. So if anyone is running a deck that revolves around basically just like a bunch of trap cards, and they set all those trap cards, and you just activate this on them, it destroys everything. I've had so many games where people scoop, as soon as I activate this card. It's so good. I've got 3 copies of Eternal Soul, literally the heart and soul of the deck. This is what allows you to get your Dark Magicians onto the field, because each turn and during your turn and your opponent's turn, you could special summon a Dark Magician from your hand or graveyard. It's crazy. The best part is that it makes it so that your Dark Magicians can't be targeted by card effects. So that means if your opponent has cards that, can target cards on your side of the field and destroy you, or, banish cards on your side of the field, your Dark Magicians remain unharmed. This card is basically the best card in the game, but also the worst card in the game, because it has one of the most crucial downsides that honestly is what keeps Dark Magicians from being a tier 1 meta deck. If this card is destroyed, all monsters on your side of the field, not just Dark Magicians, all monsters on your side of the field are destroyed. That is a huge hindrance. Obviously, you have to run this card because it's just being able to use the ability to special summon Dark Magicians on your turn and your opponent's turn is just too powerful. But at the same time, you just have to hope that your opponent isn't able to get rid of this card, because if they do, even if they just Mystical Space Typhoon this, that's it. It's game over, honestly. There are many times where once people destroy this on me, it's over. That is it. This is a crippling part of the Dark Magician strategy. If you're going against Dark Magicians and you see this card, you want to get rid of this card because it will essentially ruin their day. There's not much coming back. Once you're able to get as many monsters on the field as possible, losing this card and then losing all of them, you're already using a lot of resources to be able to get those Dark Magicians onto the field in the first place. So if you lose all that, it's game over. So, anyone who's going up against a Dark Magician deck, all of the stuff that I have mentioned up until this point is crazy, but I will admit that is a huge, huge downside. But you gotta run it. I'm also running 3 Magician Navigation. This is basically a better Eternal Soul, except it doesn't protect your Dark Magicians. You can special summon a Dark Magician from your hand, which, is what Eternal Soul can do. But at the same time, you could also special summon a Spellcaster monster from your deck directly to the field. That's crazy, because you can add another you could special summon a Dark Magician from your hand, and then special summon another one from the deck. Or you can special summon a Dark Magician, special summon the Apprentice Illusion Magician, and then her effect activates to add one to your hand. So it is really versatile. And then it also, when it's in the graveyard, you can actually banish this card from your graveyard and negate a spell or trap from your opponent's side of the field, as long as you control a Dark Magician. But that's so crazy. If someone Raigekis you, or Dark Holes, or whatever, you could just banish this card from the grave, negate it. And, they're going to be salty because, they just lost out on a card. I'm running 1 Dark Renewal. So this essentially says, if your opponent normal or special summons a monster, you could target your monster you control and they control, and special summon a spellcaster from your deck. So you could special summon Dark Magician, pretty much anything that you want. It is, just another way to get Dark Magician on the field. And then I am running the Solemn package. Solemn Warning, Solemn Strike, and Solemn Judgment. This is just a good package to have in general. Since you're setting a lot of trap cards, you want to run at least a couple of trap cards because you want to be able to stop what your opponent is doing. A lot of decks nowadays are just crazy and they bring out crazy boss monsters, but being able to negate a summon for 2,000, being able to negate a special summon or a card effect, a monster effect for 1,500, or paying half your life points, to just basically negate whatever you want, is just overall a good package to have. It's a good safety net to have. Once you set these, you can at least breathe knowing that if your opponent does do something crazy, like bring out a Boral Sword Dragon or bring out a Galaxy Eyes Photon Dragon, you could just activate this and that's it. You don't have to worry about that threat any longer. And what's crazy is the reason I don't run certain multiples, because you can run up to 3 Solemn Strike. The problem is that it takes 1,500 life points, whereas Solemn Judgment, it takes half your life points, which means that it will always be live. There are certain situations where if you might have less than 1,500 life points, which means that Solemn Strike essentially becomes a dead card. So you don't want to have this card set on the field and then not be able to use it. Whereas even if you have 100 life points, you can activate Solemn Judgment, pay half, so you'll have 50, and basically negate whatever you want. It is that powerful. So yeah, that's a 40 card deck. Yeah, I had a lot of fun making this. If you enjoy the content, please let me know. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And this has been a Yu-Gi-Oh! Dark Magician deck profile in 2019. I'll see you later. Take care.
Don't you know what you're starting? But you sure we got the clue how bad this we go? Don't you know?